Hey, this is Charles Elliott. I'm a lawyer in Alexandria, Louisiana. I'm hopefully going to bring you a little useful information. One of the things that's important to understand is something called bluffing. Bluffing doesn't mean that you don't really know anything or have anything. It's just a way to start a conversation and to appear to be knowledgeable and engaged. So you have to have a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things to be able to engage in conversation with people, comfortable conversation. And what you'll find is that people who are more knowledgeable than you, all you have to do is wind them up and get them started, and they'll start talking, especially about sports. So I feel like it's important for me to watch the Saints and the Tigers play, just enough to know how to get the conversation going or talk about some terrible play, but I don't have to remember the whole game. One of the things that's been in the news a lot lately that I watch is what's going on with former President Trump and the election and all of these lawsuits. So I wanted to give you a little bit of information. It's not coincidental that they all came right before the election, but that's left for a different day. There was a suit in New York where Donald Trump was accused, he and his businesses were accused of misrepresenting the value of some of their properties in connection with some loans that were taken out. And before the trial even started, the judge ruled that he was liable civilly for a bunch of penalties. So he started out from the gate losing. They had a trial, and it mostly centered on the value of his property in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. And at the end of the day, there was a huge tens of millions of dollar judgment against President Trump. And the only way he could appeal was to put up the money to pay the judgment, and he was able to do that. But in the trial, the banks testified that they weren't cheated, that everybody thinks their property is worth more than it is. They did their own investigation. They loaned money. He paid the loans back. Everybody was happy. But for some reason, the state of New York has decided to go after the Trump enterprises and try to remove him from the operations, remove him from the boards. And so really all you need to know about that case is that President Trump went to trial in a state where a lot of people don't like him. He got a terrible judgment against him, and then now it's on appeal. Similarly, he was accused of sexually assaulting a lady, E. Jean Carroll, and she sued him for defamation because he said that she'd made it all up. Again, there was a huge tens of millions of dollar judgment against him for that, and again, he had to put up the money to appeal. So those are the cases that are going on in New York. In Georgia, the district attorney in Fulton County, Atlanta, is trying to take Donald Trump and a bunch of other people who were involved in checking on the ballots in his election, his presidential election that he lost. They're trying to turn that into a criminal case called racketeering, influence, corruption, organization, kind of RICO is what we call it. Nobody's ever been convicted or tried or anything of this law under this set of circumstances where we're talking about elections, election fraud. That case has gotten derailed because the prosecutor, the DA, and her chief prosecutor she hired were having an affair, and it turned into this whole sideshow, which has now been resolved by the courts, saying that she had to let her boyfriend off the case. Again, I don't think that case is going to get to trial before the election, but you need to at least know that there is such a thing. His other trial is in Florida in federal court, and it has to do with some presidential records that he took when he left office and whether those records were top secret, he shouldn't have taken them, or whether there's several issues that are pending before the U.S. Supreme Court. And again, you don't really need to know what's going on in all of these cases except that they are going on. And you only need enough information to talk to someone who cares, Democrat, Republican, Independent. If they really care about that conversation, all you have to do is start it and wind them up, and they will go to town telling you what they think about it. And it's best to nod your head and smile and act interested because that's the bluffing lesson that we're talking about here. Is you want to be able to engage in conversation with people, not in an adversarial way, but you want them to do the talking. And what you'll find is that they find you very interesting if they spent their time talking about themselves and what they believe. It's just a little short lesson in how to engage in conversation with people, not in a confrontational way, to start the conversation, to know a little bit about what's going on in these cases, in case it's someone who's politically inclined, and a way to get them started talking so that you can sit back and be perceived as a good conversationalist.